Hey, quick question. Have you ever been scammed? Or you went into something with an expectation and then later on you discover you've been wasting your time all along. If you've experienced any of these, it's usually a frustrating experience, it's a terrible feeling. And so in today's video, I want to share with you schools you should absolutely avoid in 2024 so you don't waste your time. So if you're serious about getting into a good school, getting funding, getting your student visa approved, do not apply to the schools or the kinds of schools that I'm going to describe in today's video. Okay, so the first type of school you should avoid, these are schools that promise to offer you admissions or provide admission offers within 48 hours or within 3 days or within 1 week. This sounds good, and some of them are not scams. Some of those schools are not scams, but 99% of the time, those schools do not offer any good funding. So if you care about getting some funding or some good funding or some good cash, you should not apply to schools that offer to provide you admissions within 24 hours or 48 hours of submitting the application. It's a red flag, and we're not about wasting our time this year, so please move on. Okay, so another category of school you should totally avoid this year are schools that require you to provide a bank statement as part of the application process. Now, I am not talking about when you've already applied, you've gotten the admission offer, now you're trying to get your visa documents and all of that. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about schools that require you to upload or send them some proof of payment or proof that you can afford the tuition as part of the application process. That means you've not submitted your application and they require that you send them some proof that you have the dollars or the amount, the funding to pay your tuition and living expenses. Avoid those schools. By all means, run. Do not apply to those schools. And the big reason is these schools almost never offer any funding, because if anybody is going to provide funding, then why do they need you to show proof that you can afford the tuition? Think about it. It makes no sense. So if a school is already asking you to submit or upload your bank statement, you probably should run. It's okay if schools ask you what you earn. It's okay to ask you to fill in some financial information. Usually it's not required, but if they require you to show proof that you have the dollars, that you have those amounts, that you can pay your tuition and living expenses, it's a red flag. Okay, so the next category of schools is so important. Like, pay attention to this one. So another category of schools you should avoid this year are schools that are not on the priority list for the country you're applying to. So let me explain. Give me 1 second to explain. Now, every country or most countries that are big on international students, like UK, the popular destinations like the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, places like that, a lot of these countries have programs or fields that they are prioritizing every year. So this year it could be tech and IT and agriculture, or business and finance, or healthcare. These countries have a list of programs or fields or a list of professionals that they are looking for. And usually this is because that country is experiencing some shortage in that area. For instance, during COVID, a lot of US schools, were prioritizing getting healthcare workers and healthcare type students into the country. That's an example of what I'm saying. So before you apply to a program, check that that program or that field or that area is on the priority list for that country. Here's why this is important. If you apply to a school that is not, or if you apply to a program, that is not on the priority list for the school, or like a field, let's say you're applying to a program in, not data analytics, I don't know why I always use that example, but let's say you're applying to a program somewhere in agriculture or program focused on agriculture, and for that country, they are not prioritizing agriculture, they are prioritizing tech and IT. If you apply to such a field, let me say, if you apply to that field that is not on their priority list, here's what happens. Two things happen. One is it's very difficult for you to get a visa, your visa approved. Not that it's difficult, but you are less likely to get your visa, your student visa approved. So if I were applying to schools now, I would check what IRCC is prioritizing, that's for Canada, and I would check what USCIS or like the United States is prioritizing, the kind of fields they are talking about that they need. And then I would just apply to programs in those fields. Now, if you apply to schools that are not in those fields they are prioritizing, getting a student visa is a lot harder. That's just it. And the second reason is once you graduate, it's a lot more difficult for you to get a very good job in the area that you want. So essentially, it's just demand and supply. So please, if you are thinking about applying to schools and the schools and programs and fields you're applying to are not on the priority list, just know that things are slightly harder or for getting a visa as well as for getting a job once you graduate. So by all means, avoid those kind of fields if you can. Now, if you can't, then that's a whole different story. But if you can, try to apply to fields that are on their priority list. Okay, also make sure you avoid these kinds of schools that I'm going to talk about now. These are schools that have unclear accreditation. And I've seen this happen a lot these days for Canada, for the US as well. There are some schools, usually some programs, not schools, they're specific programs or what some people call courses. There are specific programs that are not fully accredited by the governing or education body in that country. So you want to make sure you check that the program you're applying to is an accredited program and it is recognized by the government or by especially the immigration body in that country. So this one, you need to do your due diligence. Make sure you are not applying to any program that is not fully accredited. And how can you find out? You can just Google it. Google this program and just add accreditation on Google and it will show you what's out there. Also, people are always talking on the internet. Yes, people are always talking. Just do, a 5-minute Google search and you'll see what people are saying about this program, their experience joining the program. I did this recently. I searched a program and I saw like, there's something shady about this program. Maybe they haven't gotten their full accreditation and that's causing a lot of problems for their students. So if you are an international student especially, or you plan to be an international student, you really don't want to be applying to programs that are not fully accredited. I'm pretty sure this list can be longer, so let me know in the comments if there are things that I missed out that you want to add and you want to make sure people are aware of and they do not fall victim. So add those to the comments, and I hope you liked today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.